Hey guys, welcome back to the train room. You know, it's been a while since I made my last video, and it's not because I've lost interest in the hobby or interest in making my videos. Far from it. Actually, I've been busy with work and with life and everything else that goes along with it. So I found some time right now to make this video and share it with you. You know, the only reason I make videos is because of what you don't see here. It's not the layout or the trains, it's what you don't see. And that's people. Most of the time, I'm up here by myself. There's nobody up here to share it with. So, you know, it took me 2 years to design and build this layout. And when I finished it, it was fun operating it, you know, and running the trains. But then I took a look around, there's nobody here to share it with. Nobody knew, you know, that my layout existed. After 2 years of hard work, I barely had anybody to show with, you know, other than with close friends and family. So all that effort and time went unnoticed. It's not like when you're building a dream car or a muscle car and you're working on it. You could actually, when you're finished, you can actually drive it down the street and everybody could see it and enjoy it, right? You could pull up to these car shows or these parking lots or, you know, to a shopping center and just talk with people, and they can admire, you know, all that hard work and time and money that you put into it. But with model, it's not like that with model trains and with your layout. Nobody knows it exists unless you actually show it to them. But how can you do that? They have to physically come over and be interested and have the time, you know, to spend with you, even just for a few minutes, to come and see it. And that's, you know, sharing it with the modeling community is kind of difficult because not everybody's an enthusiast. Not everybody's into, you know, certain hobbies. So, okay, you know, they might like it, but they don't realize the effort and the time it takes to put it all together. Only another, you know, model train enthusiast or people in the hobby would actually, you know, admire that and kind of know, you know, what it takes to complete it. So after I should have, you know, documented, you know, when I was building the layout, but I didn't do that. Shame on me. I realized only after everything was completed, you know what? Nobody knows that this model train layout exists. I'm not saying it's the best layout, far from it. There's people out there that have, you know, much larger layouts, that have multi-million-dollar layouts. And, you know, kudos to everybody who, you know, starting from your introductory level, you know, enthusiast who has a simple round or oval on the floor. That's how I started. You know, it's not about the size of your, it's about sharing it with people, right? That's what this is all about. Because even how it started with me was I was gifted an introductory set. You know, it was a simple train layout. You know, some track made a simple round, and I had no idea about model trains or how to even run them or put them together. It's a hobby that I wanted to get into, but I wasn't prepared at that moment. So when I got the gift, of course, you know, that night I went home, I put it together, I snapped the track together, I placed the train on the track. I didn't know if it was forward or reverse. I took what looked like a battery pack to me. I didn't even know what it was called, only to find out later that, you know, it's called the transformer. I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, I figured out, you know, how to you know, connect the wires. I did it wrong a couple of times. You know, there was sparks and all kinds of stuff. And then I started running the train, and I thought, this is really cool. This is something I definitely want to, you know, pursue. So I ran the train, you know, a couple of days. It was a lot of fun. But then I kept thinking, how can I expand upon it? How can I run 2 trains? How can I add more track? I had no idea. I had nobody to ask. So I started, you know, I looked up a model train store that's close by. I went there. I bought a couple of books. They had a big book section. I was too timid to ask anybody because I didn't want to feel like a fool. I had no idea what I was talking about. So I bought a couple of books. I didn't talk to anybody. I came home and I studied them, and I got all the facts, you know, on what it's called. And then I realized, you know, when skimming through those books, there's something called a layout. If you would have asked me what it was, I thought maybe, you know, it's a train setup or something like that. It's not, right? It's a model train layout. So that was defined in the books. And they tell you everything from how to put it together, you know, the bench work that goes into it, the height you should make your layout, I didn't even know that. I thought, okay, maybe, the lower is better, but it's not. Because you don't want to have a bird's eye view, when you're looking down on it. It's much more realistic when you get the best of both worlds, when you're kind of looking down and when it's almost eye level. So, the books tell you the height, where like the recommended height is anywhere between 42 to, or 45 inches to 54 inches. That's the ideal height. There is no proper height. Ultimately, it's, what's best for you and your needs. But, that's like the recommended height, anywhere between 42 inches to 54 inches. So anyway, right? So then I started building a layout, putting it together, and I had a whole host of issues. And the main problem that I was having was every time an issue would come up, there was not one book that would solve all of my issues. It would solve maybe one or two. So I had to keep searching and buying more books for more information. So I have a whole, trove of books downstairs in my house that I studied for a long time on how, to complete a model train layout and all the troubleshooting that goes along with it. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure stuff out, especially with my first layout. And, I blew up a couple of, transformers. I had a bunch of trains, kept jumping the track, and I couldn't figure out why. So I would spend a long time, trial and error. Let me try this. Let me try that. And to see what works and what doesn't work. And I got a little bit better at it. So then I decided to build a second layout, a little bit bigger than the first, to add a couple of more trains, to have maybe a couple of sidings, which I thought were really cool. These things I had no idea about. I didn't know what a siding was when I built my first layout, so it was just a couple of loops. So if I wanted to add trains, I would have to physically take them off of the track, with my hands. And then when I, built my second layout and I had the sidings, now it was much easier. Now I could just park a train on the siding and then bring it out onto the layout, which I thought was really cool. And so then I decided to build my third layout, and that's the one that you see right here. So I took what works and what didn't work, I took all that into perspective when building this layout here. So I knew what I wanted, I dreamt of it, and I dreamt it up, and then I engineered it. But I didn't quite have this space, so I had to make this room. I had to construct this room first before even attempting to build this layout. And these are the three or four things that you need to build your layout, right? You need your imagination and your creativity. You need time to do it. You need, the money, right? Everything is expensive. Even an introductory set is a couple of $100, folks. That's a lot of money, to pursue a hobby. So it's up to how much are you willing to spend, financially, how much, time are you willing to spend on it, or how much time do you have to spend on it, and how far does your imagination go? And then the fourth thing that you need is the space. Believe me, guys, if I had more space, my layout would be 10 times the size. But it's not, right? You're limited to the space that you have, the imagination or the creativity that you're capable of doing, your finances, and your time. Those are the four basic things. So that's all up to you. So this is as far as I was able to get, up until now. Who knows? I may build a fourth layout, sometime soon or in the near future that's even larger than this. I'm limited in space. I would like to, if I can find some more space, guys, I'm going to triple the size of this layout, or maybe even bigger than that. But until then, this is it. So that's the only reason why I make my videos, guys, is to share my model train layout with you and to show you what took me 2 years to build. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Building a layout for me was a lot of fun. I was always interested in how can I make it bigger? How can I make it more realistic? How do I make the scenery much more appealing? And then with the train operation, it was much more to me. If I wanted to add a train, I would physically have to pick it up. Or if I wanted to reverse direction, I'd have to pick it up again and, place it, in facing the other way on the tracks. And then, I added a couple of sidings. But for me, it was the engineering aspect of it. How do I get a train from a siding onto the main track, then get it to switch to all the rest of the main tracks, and then get it to the reverse direction, all without having to touch it. That's how trains operate in real life. So I wanted to simulate that and to see if I was even capable of trying to figure it all out in the space that I have, right? How to get a train from a siding onto the track, how to switch to all the other tracks anywhere on the layout, and then have it reverse direction and switch again to all of the other tracks anywhere on the layout. I wanted the trains to be able to traverse every single piece of track without me having to pick it up. That was my challenge. So how do I engineer something like that that's capable of doing that in the limited space that I have, and then hopefully being able to throw some scenery in on it as well. And then one other thing that I wanted to add into the mix was having as many trains run as possible. That was my thing. I wanted to, let me squeeze as many trains in operationally, because to me that was much more appealing. That was my thing. Because you can decide on it whether you want more scenery and less track, or more track and less scenery. That's the give and take that you have to factor in when you're building your layout. Is it enough scenery? Are do you appreciate much more scenery and just have a leisurely train ride through the mountains, or do you want more track to simulate train in real world operation, and then just have some scenery thrown in there, not thrown in there, but scattered around your layout? And that's a fine balance that you have to figure out. It's all perspective and what you're looking for. And for me, it was that challenge, and how to have elevated tracks as well. That's something that I was interested in, because that gives you also the ability, multi-level, and it gives you the ability to have much more track on your layout. So that challenge, that engineering challenge, is what did it for me and got me hooked and trying to figure it all out. And I was able to, in my opinion, accomplish that. Now, hopefully you agree. And for me, it's a challenge operationally as well, because I have multiple trains running, sometimes upwards more of 8 trains running at the same time. And I have to worry about a collision or a derailment. And if these trains collide, they can get destroyed. And that's kind of a bit of a problem. So, it's a pretty expensive proposition if you have, a train collision and your trains get damaged or destroyed. So I try very hard to avoid that. I try to stay focused and make sure that I'm not, switching a track by accident and then therefore bringing 2 trains onto the same track, especially in opposite directions. That's not going to be pretty at all. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Knock on wood, so far it hasn't happened to me. I've had a bunch of derailments, but I've never had a collision so far. I'm trying very hard to do that. And another thing that I wanted with my layout was how to be able to control them remotely. In other words, from a control panel. And if you'll see in some of my other videos, I showcase the control panel and I show you how, the operation of it. And that's something that I dreamt up. And how can I, from one location, be able to run all of the trains and be able to switch track and switch direction, again, without having to pick them up. That was my thing. How do I, do all of this, and how do I run all of those trains, simultaneously running 8 trains and being able to change direction and not have a collision, and being able to switch them remotely onto all of the main lines and the sidings, including and the elevated track. So that was the criteria when putting this together, and I think I was able to solve that also with the control panel. And you could see it, in my other videos as well, the control panel operation. And it worked out very well for me. I've also been thinking about giving away some of my rolling stock and some of my trains. I built up quite a collection of trains. It's not that big, but I'd like to see some, I'd like to give some away. That would make me happy. But I don't know if that's a good idea, guys. So let me know if I should give away some of my rolling stock or even some of my trains. We could do some kind of a free giveaway. If it's not a good idea, I won't do it. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comments below. And we could start doing that very soon in the next couple of videos. So thank you all for watching this video. I really appreciate it, guys. I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.